Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our webinar about the fantastic experience that is cruising the Seine River waterways in the north of France. My name is Tiffany Waters. I have the enviable position of being the head of the Hello World Groups department that have put together this opportunity for clients to join Australia's first ever charter of the fantastic ship the Bee with a company called You by Uniworld. So over the course of the next hour or so that we have together, I'd like to share a little bit of information about the cruise itself, our company and the company You by Uniworld that we have partnered with to deliver this fantastic opportunity. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, you do have the opportunity through the chat section of your screen on your computers to type messages through to me. I will try to get through as much information as I can over the course of the time that we're together today. And at the end, I'll leave some time to answer some of those questions if you do have any that arise over the course of today's webinar. Any that I'm not able to get to over the course of the next hour, I'll come back to you after the webinar concludes and see if I can help you further from there. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and without further ado, I'd like to share some exciting information with you with regards to the opportunity to cruise on the Seine waterway. So the company that I work for, as I mentioned, I work for a company called Hello World. We are actually owned by a company called the Hunter Travel Group, to take it one step further back. The Hunter Travel Group is actually one of Australia's largest privately owned travel agency groups. We have various trading names across the country. Our largest trading name is Hello World Travel. We have stores across all of the states, with the exception of Northern Territory and South Australia. And as you can see here on the screen, we have the highest concentration in New South Wales because we were actually born as a business here in 1999. So we have almost 20 years experience in the travel industry. We trade as Hello World, also the Cruise Travel Centre in New South Wales, and we do have a Cruise Travel Centre in Tasmania and the Travel Studio in Tasmania also. But our highest concentration in terms of a trading name in Tasmania is actually RACT Travel. So we have a plethora of brands across which we service retail, corporate, and group travel clients to explore the globe. So when you're booking with us, you're booking with a company that's very well established and at the height of the travel game here in Australia. In addition to that, we've chosen to partner with a company called You by Uniworld. So for anybody that's familiar with river cruising at all, you probably would have heard of Uniworld. They're one of the world's leading river cruise companies, and they have just launched this exciting new concept in river cruising that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So the You by Uniworld brand, what that actually is it's an open age river cruising product, which traditionally over the last 10 years or so, as the popularity of river cruising has evolved, river cruising has been more targeted towards people that are in the retiree sort of stage of their travelling careers. So what You by Uniworld is an opportunity for people in all age groups to experience the fantastic travel experience, which is river cruising. Because especially in Europe, and particularly the Seine, which I'm going to share with you today, Europe was established on the waterways throughout the entire continent. So the absolute best way and the most relaxing way for you to explore the continent is via river cruise. It then means that you don't have to go through, extensive road networks, be stuck in traffic jams, sit on a coach, which of course is nowhere near as comfortable as perhaps sitting on a sun deck sipping a glass of wine as you cruise the waterways from one destination to the next. So it is definitely the best way to travel. So in terms of the questions we quite often get asked about why is it that you would choose a river cruise over, say, a coach tour or something along those lines, then that reason I've just given you is probably the main one. It is that, to get from point A to point B, cruising on a luxurious vessel such as the B, which I'll introduce you to in just a moment, is a much nicer way for you to be doing it. You don't have to worry about, have I got enough leg room? Can I get up and walk around? Can I just have a sleep, lay down and have a nap in between like point A and point B? You can do whatever you like. You can have a coffee, catch up with friends. You can do various onboard activities and actually enjoy the part of your holiday that is getting from point A to point B as much as you do when you're actually in the destination. So choosing a river cruise is a fantastic way for you to actually get around and see destinations in Europe. The advantage that we also have with river cruising with you by Uniworld, this particular brand has designed itineraries that enable you to not have to be up at the crack of dawn every day, but still be able to get around and see everything, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail as the morning unfolds with you this morning. The ship itself, as I touched on just previously, it's called the Bee, so very creative name. They've actually just nicknamed it the Bee. It has all of the bells and whistles that you would expect of a river cruise vessel and more. So you have a number of different dining venues to choose from, everything from formal sit-down dining right through to just cafe style if you just want a light snack and a coffee. And the flip side to that, as you can see from the slide, we do also have a gym on board. So if you're feeling a little guilty for overindulging in the various beautiful French delicacies that you will be served on board and have the opportunity to experience on shore as well, don't worry. You can use the gym and you will feel guilt-free. You can then have another croissant the next morning without worrying about the added kilojoules. There's various bars on board. We have a couple. One of them is up on the rooftop, which I'll show you on the ship in just a moment. We have a 24-hour coffee bar, so at any time throughout the day you can actually get yourself an espresso coffee, and it is self-service, so that's available to you at any time. The rooftop deck is amazing. I'll show you some more images of that in a moment. We have the main lounge area, which is kind of like the lounge room of the ship, I guess, and it's where you can relax and watch the scenery come to you through the full windows at the front of the vessel. Friendly crew, so there's 31 crew on board for 120 passengers, so it's very personalised, attentive service, and we have some of the most beautifully designed bedrooms on any river cruise vessel cruising the Seine, which I'll show you some more images of in just a moment. So this is the Bee, just to give you a snapshot. So she's a beautiful vessel cruising the waterways in the north of France. We have, just to give you another overview here, if you look at this imagery, so on the right-hand side, you can see the windows that are at the very bottom of the ship. They're our lead-in cabin types on this particular vessel, and on this vessel, there's lots of public space areas, so there's only actually 2 decks of cabins, whereas on some vessels you have 3 decks of cabins. There's a lot of attention to making sure that the leisure area and the public space area is maximised on this vessel, which is a great design feature of this ship. But the accommodation, in terms of your lead-in accommodation without a balcony, they're the ones that are at the bottom there on the right-hand side. And then just above those, towards the middle of the ship, they're our balcony cabins, which I'll go through in a little bit more detail. in a couple of slides' time. At the very top there, you can see, and when we were in the video there, you can see on the sun deck, the very top of the roof of the ship, there's covered lounge areas and daybed areas for you to relax if you want to stay out of the sun. There's sun lounges if you do want to soak up some rays. We have a herb garden on board that the onboard culinary team uses, and that sort of square room towards the front of the vessel, that's one of the bars. So we have a rooftop bar area that's utilised both day and night. On board, there's 60 cabins, so we accommodate 120 passengers. And as I mentioned previously, there are 31 crew, so it's basically one staff member for every 4 passengers. So it's a great attentive service that you'll receive on board. We have a massage room, and there's even an open-air cinema that we use up here on the sun deck as well. A couple of questions we get asked about the vessel in terms of, life on board the vessel. The onboard language with our ship is definitely English, so you don't need to worry. You will be able to understand all of the crew, and the onboard currency is the euro. So a few of the images that you can see here, the top right-hand corner, that's one of our restaurants on board. So this is where we have our breakfast, lunch and dinner options available. The top image in the middle, that's the sun deck by night, so the moon deck if you like. And as I said, the bar on the top of the ship is also a nighttime bar as well. So you imagine sitting with champagne in hand as you glide along the waterways of the Seine in the north of France. It'd be nothing more magical. It's definitely a much nicer way to do it rather than a coach, that's for sure. The bottom left is one of the lounge areas on one of the public lounge areas on the ship, and in the bottom in the middle, that is also another public lounge area, and that's towards the front of the ship. So as you're cruising along, the vistas of the Seine waterway are coming right to you, and you're doing it in the comfort of those beautiful armchairs with a drink of your choice in hand. We are in France, so the bottom right image there is to represent the fact that you will eat some amazing culinary, you'll have some amazing culinary experiences on board this particular cruise, and that's both on board, that's prepared through the culinary team, but also on shore. So we have things like, you can actually go shopping with the chef in a local market and bring the cuisine back on board. And, for groups up to 10, if you're interested, you can actually book in to learn how to create some of the beautiful French delicacies that you'll dine on board, or that France is perhaps famous for. You can learn how to create those on board as well. So if you're into gastronomy, this is definitely a cruise for you. As I mentioned, the ship has 2 decks that are for accommodation. Now, one of the beautiful things with this being an open age cruise is that we have a variety of different accommodation types. So we do have majority of the cabins as twin share, meaning that there's 2 people can go into that cabin. So that's whether or not you have 2 separate beds, or whether or not you have just the 1 double bed. So that's basically twin share, so for 2 people to share a cabin. In addition to that, we do also have single cabins and triple cabins. So you can see on this slide here, in the bottom in the middle, that's an idea of one of the cabins if you wanted to have 3 people in a room. And this is something that's truly unique to this ship. So it's a great way for us to accommodate a group of friends that perhaps want to travel together, or a family as well. The size of the cabins does vary depending on if you want to, upgrade into a suite, then that's definitely an option for you as well. Just to show you a few images of the ship, design is definitely first class on this vessel. So she's brand new to be cruising up on the Seine waterways. She's been completely remodeled. This is her reception area, and you can see on the back right there the cocoon seats. It's just really classy. It's a beautiful ship. There are stairs between each of the floors, so there's 12 stairs between each of the levels. There is no elevator on board, so you do need to be able to walk stairs on this particular vessel. Again, some images of the actual lounge area. And this is the sun deck where I was talking about the day beds and the sun lounges. So there's lots of areas for you to relax, either in the sun or away from the sun, as the vistas of the Seine come to you. The gym is fully equipped with nothing but the best modern equipment for you to utilize. And the other advantage that we do offer on this ship that is again, somewhat of a unique point of difference for us is that we do operate onboard yoga as well. So, can you imagine cruising by towards the north of France? You've got these beautiful rolling orchards off to the side of the river and you're doing yoga. There would be nothing more relaxing to kickstart your day than that, that's for sure. And then you can go down to the restaurant and have a croissant. So this is the accommodation that I was talking about. So this is the lead-in type of accommodation. So these are our studio cabins on board. They're around 15 square metres in size, and they do have these windows. And as I mentioned, they are on the bottom of the ship. They're not below water level, so don't worry. Your windows, you're definitely not going to be seeing, water over your window line or anything like that. And you do have, aren't able to actually open the windows in the lead-ins, but they are nice and large. They let in plenty of natural light. And if you're looking at an affordable way to join the cruise, then this is definitely the way for you to go. All of the cabins have come with complimentary drinking water in the cabin that's replenished daily and on demand. There's international power plugs, which is a great bonus, so you don't need to worry about carrying travel adapters. There's flat screen infotainment systems with lots of different channels for you to choose from when in your downtime. If you want to watch Fox, Discovery, National Geographic, there's a Comedy Central channel and a plethora of other channels to choose from. All of the cabins have individual air conditioning, so your climate within your cabin is completely aligned to however you need to feel comfortable. There's an in-room safe for your valuables. You don't need to bring an hairdryer with you because, ladies, the bathrooms are equipped with hairdryers. The showers are walk-in showers in the bathrooms, and they do come equipped with Be Kind bathroom amenities that are provided as well. And then we upgrade to our balcony cabins. So again, similar in size. The key difference with these ones is that they actually have French balconies. Now, one of the most common questions we probably get asked is, what's the difference, in terms of all the different balcony options on the ships that are out there? Let me tell you, in order to river cruise in Europe, the ships can only be a certain width because they need to be able to get through all of the lock systems within the European waterways. So all of your ships are roughly around that 11.5 meters wide. Now, if you have a French balcony, what that means is that the very side of the ship is where your sliding door is to open your balcony door in order to get some fresh air. Now, if you have a French balcony, which is exactly what's pictured here, the advantage with that is that you have more floor space on the actual floor area within your cabin because, as I mentioned, the ship can't be any wider on any vessel, no matter who you're with. So if you were to have an outdoor balcony, then it sort of imposes on the actual internal area of your cabin. So it's actually a great design feature to have a French balcony. And of a morning, you can leave your balcony door open. You can wake up to some fresh air as you're cruising into port and get your day started. So these cabins do come with all of the same amenities as the lead-in cabins. It's just that they obviously have that benefit of a balcony where you can open the door for some fresh air. And then the epitome of your accommodation. So I've touched on we have some singles and we have some triples thrown in there as well. So those ones are on the middle level of the actual ship, so the middle deck of the ship. But the actual epitome of your accommodation on board is definitely these ones. So these are the suites. The suites are much larger in size. So these are around 28 square meters in size. So it's above average for your average hotel room, even in Paris. So they're a great, spacious accommodation choice for anybody that wants to spoil themselves. They do have a French balcony as well, of course. And they do come with all of the amenities that I mentioned previously for the other cabins. But these ones also come with an espresso coffee machine in the suite itself. They have towel warmers in the bathroom and mirror and floor heating as well. And they do come with a king-size bed and in-room fridge as well. So if you want to spoil yourself, this is definitely the way you want to go. Food. So I touched on it before. You're coming to France. Part of the reason you're coming to France is, without question, going to be to dine on the cuisine that the world knows France for. So we do have lots of options on board. We bring the local culinary delights of the regions that you're going to be cruising through on board. So this region of France, for anybody that's perhaps not familiar with it, this is the region of the world that we can thank for the likes of camembert cheese, beautiful goat's cheeses, cider. So this part of France is actually not known for wine. It's a unique area that's actually known for cider and Calvados. So the landscape is dotted with beautiful apple orchards to reflect that that's what they actually need, as opposed to vineyards, to create that sort of stuff. So you're definitely going to have a fantastic gastronomic experience in this part of France, and it'll be unique to any other region of France, that's for sure. So onboard life. We have a fantastic balanced itinerary in terms of what we do on board here. So it is an open age a cruise. So we have everything from mixology classes if you want to learn how to make the fantastic cocktails that you'll be able to enjoy in the bars on board. We have the chef's table cooking class, which I touched on previously, where you can learn to create some of the fantastic dishes that the French are renowned for. We obviously have Wi-Fi on board. We have rooftop yoga. We have so many different options for you to choose from. We even do a silent disco as well. So, obviously we don't want the noise to reverberate throughout the ship. So a silent disco is so much fun. You all have your own individualized headphones. You're all listening to the same music, and you're sort of having it's like being in a bar situation, but the people that are perhaps wanting to have a sleep in because they might have had a late night the night before, they're just tired because you've been doing lots of exploring in the north of France, they'll have not be affected by the noise from a disco. So it's a unique feature on the bay for this particular cruise. And another thing that we do on board is we offer paint and wine experiences on board. For anyone that's not aware, this area of France is actually where the Impressionist art era was born. So you've famous artworks like the water lilies of Monet or your sunflowers from Van Gogh. We have this landscape in the north of France to thank for those. So we bring that culture on board, and we offer paint and wine classes throughout the cruise. So if you wanted to do something while you're cruising from point A to point B on this cruise, then that's a great option to enjoy and experience a little of the local culture as well. So it really is just about making sure your onboard experience is just as fantastic as your onshore experiences are going to be while you're discovering this area of France. So I wanted to point out here, basically you have the brand U by Uniworld does operate some cruises over throughout the rest of Europe as well. So from the Netherlands through Germany to Austria and Hungary. Where we're focusing on is the area here listed in the north of France. And I just wanted to highlight here, if you think about, the UK being just across the waterways, across the English Channel there from the north of France, if you think about strategically this particular location in France, for obvious reasons, it's a gateway to the rest of Europe, but also from the Roman era, for example, trying to come up and across the waterways over to the UK. So over the course of history, it is the landmass that has been fought over more than any other. So the history that is concentrated in the north of France here is unlike anywhere else in Europe. So it is a fantastic destination to explore over the course of the week just because of its historical significance. But accompanying that, obviously, because of the amount of history that's involved here, we have so many different architectural examples that are represented in this northern part. We have so many famous stories of famous personalities, as I mentioned, such as Van Gogh and Van Gogh and Monet, sorry, from an arts perspective. But Joan of Arc, she was immortalized in this particular area of Europe as well. So the region itself just offers so much. In addition to obviously what the region has to offer now in terms of its culinary delights and the like too. So it's a fantastic area to explore. And that's why we've decided to really offer this to our clients. So anybody that's going to join us is really going to make history, because we're the first Australian company to charter the ship, the Bee. And the reason we've done that is because this itinerary is second to none. The concept of offering affordable river cruising to all ages has never been done before. And we think it's an absolutely phenomenal thing to get behind. So what we've done is to make sure that we can offer it to our clients at never to be repeated prices. We've just chartered the whole ship. So come along with lots of like-minded Australians for the very first exclusive departure on board the Bee. This could be you in just a few months' time, guys. And in addition to obviously the benefits of having the entire ship just for Australian travellers, in addition to the advantages that offers, one of the main reasons we chartered the ship is because we could tailor the itinerary to make sure that it had a few more bells and whistles without you paying any extra for it. So we've taken the standard itinerary offered for the U by Uniworld product, which is a fantastic itinerary in its own right. And without you paying any more, if you travel with us on the 16th of June on the exclusive departure, we have actually included a plethora of additional inclusions for you without you spending any more money. So the itinerary itself is a round trip itinerary starting in Paris and finishing in Paris and cruising all the way up to the northern coastline of France to Honfleur, which is it is a stunning, sleepy little harbour town right on the northern coast of France, and it opens up as a gateway to the Alabaster Coast, which is kind of like if you picture the White Cliffs of Dover, picture it on the French side with beautiful rolling goat farms and lush green farmlands dotted with apple orchards. It is stunning, and we are able to cruise all the way there because the Bee has been specially designed to be able to cruise beyond Rouen. You actually need a special vessel with certain engineering qualifications, if you like, to be able to cruise beyond Rouen in order to access Honfleur. The Bee has those, so it means that the itinerary that you have is going to be just that more relaxed because we're in the hands of the experts that know exactly how to do this region of France. So the cruise itself will then turn around at Honfleur and cruise back to Paris, but we see some of the sites on the way to Honfleur and others on the way back from Honfleur to Paris, so it's a nice balanced itinerary. The actual itinerary itself, it's an 8-day, as I said, departs on the 16th of June, and the lead-in price for those cabins that I was showing you earlier with just the windows, it starts at $3,799 per person. And then depending on how much you want to spoil yourself, the price can go up obviously to a suite at $7,399 per person. But the advantage with us is that we've also thrown in all of your drinks, all of your meals, we've got included touring throughout, and we've got additional inclusions for your touring as well, as I mentioned. So, you're not paying any more to have all of your meals, you have a welcome party, you've got dedicated onboard cruise directors that are your hosts on board and also on shore. The additional touring, for example, that we've included over the standard itinerary include the likes of a full day trip out to the Somme battlefields, which is an incredibly emotive experience that I think any person should experience at least once in their life. It's kind of like for us Aussies going to Gallipoli, going to Anzac Cove, which is a phenomenal thing for that I'll never forget. But the Somme battlefields touched me just as much. The sheer volume and loss of life that's been experienced there just through the two Great Wars, not to mention stepping back in the centuries prior that I touched on at the start of the webinar today. There is just so much history in this area, and so we decided to include that. One of the great things that you'll see in the Somme battlefields with the day trip we're including is a visit to Lochnagar crater, which is the largest crater from the bombs from the war that's still intact and easily visited. Lochnagar crater is nicknamed the Peace Crater these days, so it's where, irrespective of what side of the fence you sat on over that period of war and the history stretching back over the centuries in this region, everyone comes together once a year at Lochnagar crater, and it basically is we stand side by side as one united mankind, as opposed to I was on this side or you're on that side. So it's a fantastic emotional experience for any visitor to the Somme region. The other thing that we'll see on our day trip that we've included is a visit to Beaumont Hamel, which is one of the sites within the Somme battlefields where you can actually walk the traditional pathways, I guess, or dugouts of the actual war. A lot of the sites that you see in the Somme are replicas, but these are the actual ones that were used during the war. So lots of things. We obviously go to Villers-Bretonneux, and the list goes on. It's a fantastic day trip that we had to include, and you don't pay any extra for that or any of the other things that we've decided to include on this exclusive departure. We have a local celebrity DJ party on board just for a bit of fun. You have lots of mixology classes available to you as well if you want to try your hand at making cocktails. And as I mentioned, we do have all of our alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages included for our guests on this charter. They're normally not included. So all of this is included value that you're not paying any extra for if you come with us on our departure in June. So, as I mentioned, we have lots going on board the ship, but we also have a plethora of options going on shore. So, depending on what your interests are, you can choose how to spend your time. So, it really is about designing an itinerary that really is going to tick the boxes for you, because there are so many things to choose from in this region. So, if you're into gastronomy, if you're into history, if you're into architecture, if you're into the arts, there is something for you in the north of France when you cruise the Seine waterway. So you can decide how you want to choose to spend your day. So each day we have later starts. So generally we won't leave the ship until around about 10:30 or so of the morning. So you can have a nice leisurely breakfast, and then we are docked right in the heart of the city, of the locations that we're visiting. Again, that's important. It's part of why we can afford to not have to start our days too early, because we quite literally would just take you from the ship to explore, and we are right there. So even if you decide that you just want to spend the day having your own time, you can just walk off the ship into these regions, because we have the best docking locations in all of these places. So it really is about designing this Seine cruise to what interests you most, and knowing that we've thought about all of the logistics to make sure that you're traveling with experts to enable you to do that. We have options throughout each location that are included, but then you have lots of different things that you can choose from depending on what your interests are more aligned to. So as I mentioned, architecture, gastronomy, or history, the like. So you just choose. The itinerary itself, this is the fun part, so we'll get into what we're going to see now. So as I mentioned, it's Paris round trip to Honfleur, all the way back to Paris over the course of 7 nights, 8 days. We're docked right in the heart of these locations every night, and we don't do overnight cruising. So that's the advantage. You're not going to have to worry about, can I get to sleep because of the noise of the engines on the ship? And these are common things that come up with river cruising. You're traveling with experts. We've thought of that. So don't worry. If you want to go explore of a night time, have a coffee, under the beautiful historic streetlights in Paris by night, you can do that and not have to worry about the ship leaving without you. You can explore Rouen, like we do a fantastic included sound and light show at Rouen Cathedral at around 11 o'clock at night. And we can do that because we're not moving the ship of a night time. So the itinerary itself starts in Paris. We have an opportunity to do lots of different things, but I just wanted to share a few of the key ones here with you. So again, we can take a walk at midnight in Paris and stroll along the Seine. It's a city that never sleeps, and it is absolutely charismatic by moonlight. We have all of the century-old, yellow lit, romantic design streetlights and these historic bridges spanning the Seine. You've got to take a stroll in Paris by midnight. So we include that for you. We have, again, the late starts the next day, so you don't have to worry about, having to have an experience like that and then have to get up first thing in the morning at 6 o'clock in order to enjoy the activities for the day. We've really thought about how to design the itinerary to make it a more relaxing way for you to explore the Seine. You can go to the Moulin Rouge. Of course, we're in Paris. Of course, we're going to offer you the opportunity to go to the Moulin Rouge and see Lady Marmalade. There's a street art tour in Belleville. Belleville is a fantastic area in Paris that, if you're into your street art and more if this is modern day Paris type stuff, we'll take you there with an expert that'll explain all the street art, because it's not just about tagging. There is some phenomenal street art in Paris that we'll introduce you to if that's of interest to you. And of course, cuisine. So, of course, throughout Paris, we've got lots of options that we can share with you there. We then cruise through to Conflans-Saint-Honorine, and this is where you can explore the Palace of Versailles. It has a phenomenal garden area that's kind of like a maze that you can walk through. There's more gardens that are dotted with these beautiful water fountains that come to light with a sound and light show as well. So it's a great experience that you can choose to do. Auvers-sur-Oise. This is where Vincent van Gogh spent his final days back in the 1800s. So we'll introduce you to that if you're into your Impressionist art era. I mean, me personally, growing up, one of my favorite paintings was always Van Gogh's Sunflowers. So, for me, it was a real kick to go here because you're stepping back in time. You can actually go and see the room where Van Gogh used to live because it's still there. It's above a beautiful little cafe now, but it's a history unlike any other that you can really grasp and you can experience. You can go to the field where he sat and painted some of his final artworks. This is really getting to know the Impressionist art era up close. In Rouen, so Rouen is dotted with so many historic sites, aligned to the Joan of Arc era. This is where Joan of Arc was burnt at the stake, accused of heresy in 1431. So we'll take you on a medieval charms tour of the local district of Rouen. From here, you can also see the sound and light show at the cathedral that I mentioned, which is a great thing if you, after dinner have a couple of drinks and then you walk straight into town from our city central docking location, and you don't miss out on that because we've really thought about, where's the best place to be located with the ship in order to make sure you don't miss these local experiences. From here, we can also explore the Normandy Beaches area, so we'll get to see the D-Day landing sites, which again, similar to the Somme region, this is, an area just dotted with so much history. Whilst you're there, you can also see the Bayeux Tapestry, which is the world's longest tapestry. It's amazing to see. It's quite a big, large tapestry that could take you minutes to walk from one end to the other if you walked constantly without stopping, and it depicts the Battle of Hastings. So it's a great thing that we also include whilst you're on the D-Day landing beaches area. And as I mentioned, the sound and light show at Rouen Cathedral. Caudebec-en-Caux and Honfleur. So this is where we're getting right up to the northern area of the northern French coastline. So Caudebec-en-Caux is, if you didn't go via river, you probably would never get to see Caudebec-en-Caux. It is a beautiful, tiny little village on the Seine riverbank with a fantastic cycle path along it that you can actually cycle along as well, because we have included bikes that are all free of charge for you to use in any docking location. And this is a great place that I'd recommend maybe grabbing one of those and going for a cycle. But this area here is where you get right into the real side of the north of France. So this is where those beautiful apple orchards and the goat farms and the Alabaster Coast region really comes to life. So we'll take you out to see that real side of France in the north. You'll see the old port of Honfleur, which is, all these beautiful, colourful boats in the inner harbour that are, all the beautiful cafes and the cobblestone streets of Honfleur are dotted around the inner harbour area. So you've got your slate-covered frontage homes, and it's just impeccable. You just step off the ship and it's like, oh, it just takes your breath away. It's really beautiful. And then we explore a little bit further from there and go and see Etretat. So this is those alabaster cliffs, the white cliffs on the French side that I was talking about. They're really quite high and they overlook beautiful sandy beaches at the bottom of the cliffs. And as I mentioned, you've got these, goats that are just in their prime sitting at the top on, beautiful lush green landscapes throughout here. So, it's really quite a nature lover's paradise. You can take a look at the apple orchards of Normandy. So we can actually take you into one of them so you can see the process of how they make their Calvados and how they make their famous cider as well. Because as I mentioned, there's very few vineyards up in this particular area. They're more personalised vineyards, not for production or visiting in this part of France. So it's really a unique part of France to visit. We still have lots of beautiful French wines on board though, so don't worry. So just a glimpse into some of the highlights you'll see on this particular trip. So obviously your Moulin Rouge, you're going to get to see the beautiful bridges and the old street lights of Paris. The Eiffel Tower, Galeries Lafayette is a shopping experience unlike any other, but even if you're not into shopping, the architecture of this building is amazing and it's right by the Paris Opera House as well, so it's definitely a great thing to go for a wander and explore. Your Rouen highlights. So as I mentioned, your Joan of Arc, history here. The image on the bottom, second from the left, that's the inner harbour area of Honfleur. And then next to that on the right, you have your an example of your beautiful local market. So olives are another thing that are quite popularly grown up in this particular area, so you'll get to sample those. It's just a region of France unlike any other. So coming back down the river towards Paris again, we then stop off in Vernon. Vernon is where you can access Giverny. So this is the area that Monet lived in for 40 odd years. It's where he painted his famous paintings, Water Lilies painting. And you can step inside the area where his gardens are, where he lived. You can go inside his home, and because we're docked right at Vernon, it's only a 6-kilometre bike ride, so it takes around 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so. It's all flat to ride right from where we dock straight to Monet's house. I mean, who can say they've done that before, right? And because of where we dock and the time that we dock, you can also get there before the crowds. It's really about these points of differences in terms of when you choose to explore this region of France. So we've thought of all that to make sure that you have the absolute best experience in these locations as well. So we've got La Roche-Guyon, which is a 12th century castle. It was used for many things over the centuries, but probably the most recent famous was it was where a German field marshal, Rommel, was actually used it as a bunker during the Great War to sort of fight off the Allied forces. But it's right on the riverbank, and we exclusively dock at La Roche-Guyon. We're one of the only ones that do on this particular charter. So one of the great things about that is that the tributaries off the Seine in this particular area are so beautiful and scenic to explore by kayak. So if you want to be a little bit more active, this is a great opportunity for you to do that. And there's also some beautiful national park areas just off to the shore in this area as well. So if you're quite adventurous at heart, you could actually go paragliding, tandem paragliding in this area as well. So lots of fun stuff to do. So then heading back down towards Paris, as I mentioned, we've got our Somme Battlefields tour that we include. We do have lunch out in that area as well. But when we're in Paris, finishing off your trip, you've got the opportunity to do an all-day bateau bus pass. So that's where you can actually get on the local city tour buses and explore the inner city network of the Seine waterway through Paris, because your larger vessels like the B for your river cruising trip that you're going to be accommodated on, they can't get right into the city centre. So we include the Battle Bus Pass for you to explore if that's what you'd like to do. We can take you to see to a fantastic vantage point to see the Parisian rooftops, which have been depicted in so many artworks over the centuries. So we give you a glimpse into that side of Paris. You can visit the world famous Louvre Museum, of course. And as I mentioned, the gardens of Versailles and the pyrotechnic show that they do there within the gardens are amazing. And there's an example of that just there on the bottom left of the screen now. So the itinerary really does offer quite a balance of, history, beautiful gardens, culinary delights, architecture. There really is something for everyone in the Seine. The beauty about what we're offering for our guests on this charter is that everything's included. You don't need to worry about putting your hand in your pocket and spending a fortune when you're actually over there if you travel with us on the 16th of June. So for a week, you have everything included for as little as $3,799. Now, until Friday of this week only, so only available for the next couple of days, we also have an opportunity for you to fly return for only $399. So for just over $4,000, you can fly return to the north of France and have a 1 week inclusive holiday through the north of France, seeing all that the region has to offer. So be a part of history and join us on what is going to be a phenomenal experience cruising through the north of France. This is how the north of France is truly to be experienced, and we really do hope to see you on board soon. Thank you so much for joining me for today's webinar. If there's any questions that you have that I haven't touched on thus far, please feel free to type them into your system at the moment, and I'll do my best to come back to you to answer them. Anyone that wants to go through and see any of our stores in order to book onto this departure, I've just popped up here a reminder of where all of our locations are located. For any of our attendees that are in the Newcastle region, or for anyone that wants to travel to the Newcastle region, we do have an in-house experience tomorrow night in our head office at 450 Hunter Street, Newcastle. It starts at 5:30. What we're doing tomorrow afternoon is we'll give you an opportunity to ask some more questions about the itinerary, to check availability for your preferred cabin choices, and to book you up with the airfare offers and the like as well. I'll be in attendance. I know so much about this northern part of France. I absolutely love it. It's a destination that I fell in love with many times, or I've been something like 14 times. I absolutely love this part of France. So you'll have an opportunity to speak directly to me if you come along tomorrow afternoon. You will also meet Brett and Louise Dan, who are the owners of the Hunter Travel Group. And Brett and Louise Dan are going to be escorting this exclusive departure on the 16th of June to the north of France. So it's a great opportunity for you to speak to them, to meet them, and also to book yourself on what is going to be an unforgettable once-in-a-lifetime experience. So as I mentioned, it's only $4,000 or so. think it works out to be about $4,200 with your return flights if you book by this Friday at any one of the stores listed on your screen there. And you could be cruising the waterways of the north of France on the Seine River on the luxurious B on the 16th of June this year. So thank you again so much for joining me for today's webinar. I hope to see you on the waterways with us in June. And for anyone in the Newcastle area that's coming along to join us tomorrow night, I look forward to meeting you personally then. Thanks for joining us today.